During the 2016 campaign, Donald Trump made a strong anti-crime case. He argued that high-crime communities needed more police, not fewer, and that murder had jumped dramatically in the wake of Barack Obama's soft-on-crime policies, Department of Justice targeting of police departments, and administration tolerance for anti-police riots in major cities across the country. The media critiqued Trump's specific claims. They claimed that he was exaggerating the rising crime problem in the wake of what Heather McDonald has called the Ferguson effect. But Trump's overall message was absolutely right. While the left claimed the crime rates were doing fine, had been dropping for decades, they neglected that murder rates rose in America's cities over the past couple of years after a sustained drop, and violent crime rates have risen in America's 30 biggest cities. Today, the Wall Street Journal reports, quote, homicides rose in most big American cities in 2016, continuing a worrisome trend for police and criminologists that began last year, even as murder rates in most cities are nowhere near the levels of 2 years ago. Trump actually took crime seriously during the campaign. During the RNC, he stated, quote, decades of progress made in bringing down crime are now being reversed by this administration's rollback of criminal enforcement. This was smart strategy, as I said at the time. Clinton, by contrast, ran on the notion that mass incarceration was the big problem, that the system was implicitly biased, and that her husband's plans to lower crime, which were actually wildly successful, they had to be dismantled. No wonder she lost. Republicans ought to run on crime regularly across the country. That's how Republicans can get elected in places like California and New York. Remember Richard Riordan and Rudy Giuliani? Well, Trump did, and he did well in states that have seen unrest over policing and crime. Wisconsin, of course, he won, saw a riot in Milwaukee. Michigan has seen continuing controversy over crime in Detroit. Pennsylvania has seen high rates of crime in Philadelphia. It's telling that Trump isn't talking about one of Republicans' top legislative priorities before his election, criminal justice reform. That's good news, given that notions of mass prison release seem ill-founded in light of America's rising crime problem. Trump sees something a lot of other Republicans don't. Crime matters, and so does safety, and he's going to stand up against both. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Okay, so tons to get to today here on The Ben Shapiro Show. By the way, I am going to be hosting Mark Levin again this evening, so that should be a lot of fun. You're going to want to check that out. Before we go any further, have to say hello to our advertisers at Hint Water. Hint Water. So Hint Water is just, it's delicious stuff. You can go to hint.com/Ben, and you get this pretty major discount. It's normally $24 for a variety pack, and it includes 3 bottles of Hint's 4 most popular flavors, which are pineapple, watermelon, crisp apple, and blackberry. And the great thing about Hint is that it has no calories, and it's not full of non-organic stuff. It actually is great for kids, and it tastes better than water. So water is kind of boring. You get tired of drinking it. It's why I've been drinking sparkling water for a long time, but sparkling water apparently isn't that great for your bones, is what I've been hearing, actually. And Hint Water is a different thing. It actually allows you to enjoy water without the calories, and you get this great taste of flavor, and the flavors are really good. For $15, you can get the variety pack at drinkhint.com/Ben. That's drinkhint.com/Ben, and you get that for $15 instead of the normal $24. Give it a try. Your family is going to get addicted to it. It really is great. My wife loves it. My kids love it. I really enjoy it. Hint Water, drinkhint.com/Ben. Make sure you use the /Ben for both the discount and so that they know that we sent you. Okay, so lots going on here in the world. Usually there's a slowdown prior to Christmas, but the news seems to continue to be coming fast and furious, and most of the news seems to be that the left has utterly lost its mind. They are absolutely crazy towns now. The latest evidence that the left have lost their minds, Trump derangement syndrome, now roams free across the nation. It's like The Stand. Somebody says Trump, and then the next person says Trump. And eventually they're all bleeding through their noses and keeling over. Trump derangement syndrome has taken over everything. The latest victim of Trump derangement syndrome are these crazy gay dudes who decided to confront Ivanka Trump at an airport. Now, as somebody who's, has a relative level of notoriety, I see a lot of people at airports who are fans. Like the last few times I've been in an airport, I've seen people who are fans of the show, which is great. And there's sometimes people who disagree and come up, and they're generally pretty civil about it. But it's in public places, it's not the time for you to start screaming at random people who you don't like politically. If I saw Barack Obama at the airport, I would not be tempted to walk up to Barack Obama and start screaming at him for his Iran deal. It just seems like a bad breach of kind of common sense protocol. Like, there are plenty of good venues to confront Barack Obama. At the airport doesn't seem like one of them. It's amazing how basic civility has gone by the wayside. What happened is that the internet has I think, created this feeling of incivility because you can hide behind anonymity. Even if your name's out there on the internet, you're not actually speaking to someone face to face, so you can say whatever you want, and that allows people to say things they would never say in person. See, what differentiates me from a lot of other folks is pretty much everything I say on Twitter. I also say directly to human beings, but most of the things that get said on Twitter are things that people don't say directly to other human beings. But as the internet culture becomes more pervasive, those lines start to get blurred. And so instead of people just acting like jackasses on Twitter and then in real life acting normally and civilly, it's bleeding over. So here's the story today. The story today is that this one guy decided that he was going to accost Ivanka Trump on a JetBlue flight. So according to TMZ, Ivanka was leaving JFK. She was seated in the coach area of the plane. First of all, good for Ivanka Trump flying coach. Like really, good for Ivanka Trump flying coach. That's kind of a neat thing to see. And she doesn't look like glamorous Ivanka there. She looks like a normal lady, which is kind of cool. And she's flying JetBlue coach. And by the way, contrary to common rumor put out by some of my political enemies, I always fly coach. Ivanka is just sitting there with her kids and with her husband. And this guy rushes up to her and starts yelling, "Your father is ruining the country," and then starts ranting, "Why is she on our flight? She should be flying private." Because why? Why should she be flying private? Why is that necessary? She has to be banished to the private plane? Matthew Lasner is the name of the guy's partner. He says, "Ivanka and Jared at JFK T5 flying commercial. My husband chasing them down to harass them. Hashtag banality of evil." Really? Banality of evil? Ivanka Trump, first of all, she's a Democrat. She probably agrees with you on half of your policies. But second of all, banality of evil actually is the idea that a normal person is capable of doing evil things. Well, it seems to me that a kind of evil thing is chasing down random people in the airport, naming where they are if they're prominent, and then cursing at them. That seems unpleasant. And I love the fact that Matthew Lasner, he actually says there, my husband chasing them down to harass them, not to speak with them, not to ask a question, to harass them. That is the entire goal here, is to harass Ivanka Trump and Jared for no apparent reason. And then afterward, this guy's partner got tossed off the flight. His husband, I guess, got tossed off the flight. And I put that back up for 1 second. And he then tweeted, "Ivanka, just before JetBlue kicked us off our flight, when a flight attendant overheard my husband expressing displeasure about flying with Trumps." And then he tweeted also, "Ivanka and Jared on our flight. My husband expressed displeasure in a calm tone. JetBlue staff overheard and they kicked us off the plane." Well, that's not what witnesses were saying. Witnesses were saying that they were disruptive of the flight, that they were being jerks, and that they were just cursing at Ivanka for no reason, or at least confronting and harassing Ivanka for no reason. And it's funny what the media run with. So the media, again, they complain about fake news this and fake news that. And then they run with a headline that says, these people are tossed from the plane after talking to Ivanka Trump. So they ignore the first tweet where they actually say the goal is to harass them, and they ignore the other people on the plane who say this was disruptive, and they just say, oh, it was just a talking to. It was just somebody talking to Ivanka Trump. Really, really gross stuff. And again, demonstrative of the fact that there are a lot of people who believe that, for the left, virtue signaling is more important than actual virtue. Virtue signaling trumps virtue. So signaling to all their friends on Twitter that they confronted Ivanka Trump, these people will be the toast of their cocktail party this evening. That's more important than them actually just being decent and, say, not confronting people in front of their children and yelling at them about their fathers, which is weird. By the way, this guy apparently was carrying his kid when he did it too, so nothing like dragging your own child into it as well. And this is not uncommon. It's becoming a bigger and bigger thing. There's some guy named, I guess they call him Monsieur Vogue. His name is André Leon Talley. And Maureen Dowd wrote a piece about him. He is a famous designer, and he's been dressing Melania Trump for a long time. And Melania and Maureen Dowd interviewed this guy, and here's what she wrote. She wrote, "I have flown here to see if Andre can shed some light on Melania, the sultry enigma of Trump world, the only reserved member of what is shaping up to be the most bellicose takeover in modern times. As everyone else rushes in to blow up the Capitol, as Ivanka shops for houses in Georgetown and office space at the White House, as headlines cascade about how Ivanka will be the real first lady, Melania has virtually disappeared. We see more of her doppelganger on Saturday Night Live than we do the real Slovenian Sphinx, who is hanging back in New York so her 10-year-old son Barron can finish the school year." And then she talks to this guy Andre, and Andre says that he doesn't want to dress Melania anymore. He's not interested in dressing Melania. He says, quote, "You make the choice to be in Trumpland, or you make the choice to eject yourself from the horror of Trumpland. I've made my choice not to be part of Trumpland." So I guess that now it's okay. I'm glad to see that the left is now okay with refusing your services to people you don't want to serve. That's good to know. So if you're a Christian baker, you're not allowed to say no to catering a same-sex wedding. But if you're a fashion designer, then you're definitely allowed to say no to Melania Trump for no reason other than you think her husband's kind of a douche. So that's good to know, that now they suddenly believe in free enterprise and your ability to pick your own clientele. That's a nice thing to be aware of. But second of all, again, it just shows sort of the pettiness of these folks. It's not because they have a moral principle. They're not going to dress people with whom they disagree. They dress people with whom they disagree all the time. I assume they have some clients who are Republicans and voted for Trump. But the idea is that he doesn't want his name linked with Melania Trump. Horror of horrors. She might be wearing one of his dresses. First of all, I just have a question. Is the left that vindictive? Really, truly, is the left that vindictive? If there is a right-wing fashion designer, I don't know if there are, if there is a right-wing fashion designer, and that right-wing fashion designer dressed Michelle Obama, do you think that right world would go crazy? Would any conservative go, we've got to punish those people for dressing Michelle Obama? I really, really doubt it. I really doubt it. But apparently, these folks are so afraid of the left or so interested in virtue signaling that they decide that it's more important to virtue signal than to just act with decency and moderation. And again, not the only story like this. Anthony Bourdain, who runs the most overrated show on TV, Parts Unknown. He's a celebrity chef, and he goes around eating food in different parts of the world and pretending we're all friends. It's a small world, except with food that you can't eat but looks good. And he goes around and does this show. He told the foodie-focused website Eater he will never eat in restaurateur Alessandro Borgognoni's, I guess that's how, Borgognoni, Borgognone, you try it, new sushi restaurant at Trump's hotel, adding he has utter and complete contempt for Borgognoni. And then he took a shot at another chef, David Burke, for taking over Jose Andres' planned restaurant at the hotel after Andres pulled out in protest of Trump's comments about Mexican immigrants. And now he's really, really angry with these two chefs because he thinks that their motivation is to get in good with the president and make money. Because that's never motivated anybody on the left, to get in good with Obama and make money. Like Anthony Bourdain doing a show with Obama, that wasn't designed to get in good with Obama and make money. Heaven forbid. He was just doing it because he thought it would be, really great TV. So the left is going nuts. They've decided they can't have anything to do with folks on the right. There's a story the other day that said that the person who is unfriending everybody on Facebook is Democratic women. Democratic women are really pissed, and if they see anybody who voted for Trump or is a Republican, they're unfriending them on Facebook, which gives the lie to this idea that it's your intolerant John Lithgow from Footloose uncle who's the source of all the discomfort in your family. Honestly, I've never seen that. Maybe it exists, but I've never seen it. Maybe it's because I'm a minority in our extended family. We're Republicans and everybody else is a Democrat. But from where I sit, it seems precisely the opposite. It seems like most of the people at Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner who decide to make a trouble, it seems like those people are on the left and they want the fight because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel morally superior. Okay, so if they can't come up with stories, so how do they justify this sort of behavior? How does the left justify this sort of behavior, saying that it's okay to treat people this way, to confront Ivanka Trump on a flight? How do they make themselves feel better for doing that? Well, they simply say that they're just hitting first, right? They're trying to retaliate for the evils and the intolerance of people on the Trump side of the aisle. And that's why we've seen this spate of hoaxes. There's been this big spate of hoaxes. So, for example, there's this story that came out yesterday. There was a Mississippi church that was burned, and somebody spray painted on the side of it, "Vote Trump." And here's a picture of what that church looks like. So it's burned out, obviously, and somebody spray-painted "Vote Trump" on it. And the media, if you recall, made a huge deal out of this. Oh, my goodness, must have been some crazy Trump voter who was trying to intimidate this historically black church. According to the Associated Press, quote, "A Mississippi man with a prior criminal record was arrested Wednesday in the burning of an African-American church that was spray-painted with the words 'Vote Trump.' And the church's bishop said the man is a member of the congregation." The state fire marshal said investigators do not believe the fire was politically motivated, but there are signs it may have been done to appear that way. Andrew McClinton, 45, of Leland, Mississippi, is scheduled to make his initial court appearance. He's charged with first-degree arson in a place of worship, according to the Mississippi Department of Public Safety. McClinton, by the way, is a member of the church. He is also black. So everybody was saying that it had to be some white Trump supporter who burned out this church because, as we all know, Trump supporters are evil racists, and therefore we have to ensure that we have to crack down on the Trump people and be mean to them, except that was a hoax. Other hoaxes. So we now know that this story at University of Michigan, in which this girl claimed that in the days after Trump's victory, she was stalked by an intoxicated guy who ran up to her, forced her to take off her hijab, and threatened to light her on fire with a lighter if she didn't. That turns out that was complete nonsense as well. Ann Arbor police say the whole attack was a sham, according to the Daily Caller. Police Lieutenant Matthew Liege announced that officers reviewed many hours of surveillance footage from the area where the supposed attack occurred. Not only were they unable to find any evidence of the attack, they were also unable to find any evidence the student was in the area at the time. The attack also had no eyewitnesses. So that, too, was a hoax. So hoaxing everywhere. And then there's this other hoax that's been getting all sorts of attention. Because here's the thing with the left. If the story's too good to check, they just run with it. So there's this Muslim YouTube hoax artist. I mean, that's what he does. He does hoaxes and pranks, named Adam Saleh. And Saleh yesterday released this video of himself on Delta, and he was suggesting that he was thrown off the plane because his mom was talking to somebody in Arabic. Here's a little bit of the video he released.
Please say this to Facebook and Twitter. Guys, we spoke a different language on the plane, and now we're getting kicked out.
That's insane.
Now we're getting kicked out. We're getting kicked out because we spoke a different language. This is 2016.
Fucking crazy.
2016. Look, Delta Airlines are kicking us out.
He claimed that this is what happened, and now it's turning out that the evidence tends to suggest that this was not true. He's a professional hoaxer. This is, he made headlines a few years ago, if you remember, by claiming that he squeezed into a tiny suitcase and flew in the baggage hold from Melbourne to Sydney. And that, of course, turned out to be absolute nonsense. He's done this. Apparently, he tried to pull the same prank on a different airline. I guess reports are out today that he was trying to pull this prank on a different airline earlier, and the entire media ran with it. The entire media suggested that Delta had thrown him off the flight because he was speaking Arabic or his mom was speaking Arabic. Passengers on the plane, they say that this is nonsense. They say that he was kicked off the plane for other reasons. Apparently one of the passengers says that this is not correct. So, according to a witness, quote, "I was sat 2 seats away from the internet prankster and his friend. Neither of them was on any phone call. I could hear them talking in plain American English. The YouTube guy was trying to get his friend to shout something in Arabic, which he did a total of 4 times. He shouted across the plane, and the first 2 times I thought he was shouting maybe a friend or something. A couple of passengers after the second time said they were making themselves and their young children uncomfortable, and could they shut up? They told her to shut up, and then he shouted again. They were filming people's reactions on their phone, I assume for some comedy YouTube video, but they were made to delete it. Delta said in a statement, "It appears the customers who were removed sought to disrupt the cabin with provocative behavior, including shouting. This type of conduct is not welcome on any Delta flight. While one, according to the media reports, is a known prankster who was video recorded and encouraged by his traveling companion, what is paramount to Delta is the safety and comfort of our passengers and employees. It is clear these individuals sought to violate that priority." And Saleh then claimed that what they did was wrong and we deserve to speak up about this. He said, "Yes, we're pranksters, and it sounds like the boy who cried wolf, but today you can clearly see it's as real as it gets." Well, no, I can't. No, I can't. I mean, where's the rest of the video? Why does the video start with them being removed from the plane? They're YouTube pranksters. Why is it that half these videos start after the incident, and then the media takes the account as though it was totally cool? They take the account as though it's totally and absolutely relevant and true? That's the fake news. That's the real fake news. Well, we have to break here for a second, say hello to our advertisers over at CISO.com. So if you are really into comedy, and this has been a pretty dark year in a lot of ways, although I think it's ending well. If you're very into comedy and you want to watch as much comedy as you can over the Christmas break, you need to go to CISO.com and subscribe for $3.99 a month. It is fantastic. All the catalog of all the old comedies. They've got full catalog of Monty Python, of The Office, the British version. They have classics like 30 Rock and Parks and Rec. I'm a big Parks and Rec fan. And Saved by the Bell. I mean, they have you have to check out their catalog and go to CISO.com and check it out. It really is great. They have all sorts of they have all sorts of different genres as well. Everything from the sketch and stand-up and improv to late-night comedy and mockumentaries. And you can spend hours just watching the comedy here. CISO.com, $3.99 a month. My wife and I really enjoy it. They have a bunch of original series as well. They have one that actually makes fun of Anthony Bourdain, which is great. It's called Hidden America with Jonah Ray. Anything that makes fun of Anthony Bourdain, I'm all in favor of, as you may have noticed. CISO.com, and you make sure that you use promo code BEN. And if you do that, then they give you 2 free months. And so that is an awesome deal. CISO.com, promo code BEN, $3.99 a month to subscribe. Okay, so so all these hoaxes have had the predictable effect, and that is they've created this impression that the country is deeply, deeply divided, when the truth is a lot of these stories are just not true. And it's driving people to do crazier and crazier things. Trump derangement syndrome is driven by actual fake news. I just gave you a bunch of examples of actual fake news, and it's driving people to be crazy. here's another story like this. A group of artists have now come together demanding that Ivanka Trump remove their artwork from her New York City apartment. The artists who formed the Halt Action Group have initiated the Dear Ivanka Instagram campaign as a way to protest President-elect Donald Trump through his daughter. So they're asking her to remove all the art from her apartment. Her answer should be, go screw yourself. I bought it. I own it. And you can't ask me to do anything with it. Really obnoxious stuff coming from the left. If you want to continue to polarize America along these lines, then please continue doing what you're doing. Well, as we continue over at dailywire.com, we're going to continue over there. Unfortunately, this brings us to the end of our Facebook Live feed. We have a lot more to get to, including Donald Trump's response to the terror attacks. We're going to talk about what I think is actually the big story of the day, which is Trump is now pushing executive action for tariffs, which is crazy towns. And we're going to get to a little bit of Bible talk a little bit later on here on the program. But you have to go to Daily Wire to do that. If you subscribe to Daily Wire, $8 a month, then that will get you access to dailywire.com. You get to check out the rest of this podcast live. You get to be part of the mailbag. We're doing an episode tomorrow, so we'll do the mailbag tomorrow. Get in your questions now. You buy an annual subscription for $8 a month, and you get a free copy of my book, True Allegiance, which has been doing really well. You get a free signed copy of my book, True Allegiance. Lots of goodies coming in the Daily Wire store soon. So make sure that you subscribe now, dailywire.com, and join us, the biggest conservative podcast in the United States.